Good evening and welcome. It's the time of my live stream for this week. And today we are going to think about a bit of a different aspect of the games. So today's topic will mainly be about SessionLord's multitabling tool. And we are going to go try some pretty, I don't even know can I do it, but I think I'm going to try, can I play 50 tables at once at 50-50s? Like 50 sounds like a nice number for 50-50s, of course. So, good evening everybody, and we are going to start by looking first what's available on SessionLord, and then we'll look on what I think or what I'm using and what are different options that how you could use it. So first of all, when we are looking at multitabling, we are having this kind of a start screen. And when we are having this kind of a start screen, we are having like one button that turns everything here on or off. And you can see that I'm having preset bets on, table manager on, hotkeys on, Ihad on, and backer on. And I think that if you are using SessionLord's multitabling, this backer is something that there is never any reason not to use. It works very well. It always gets time banks correct. It always gets you back in the tournaments. Practically only if you are like, if you are going to a break, then it's the only spot where you want to take backer off for a while, so you don't waste your time banks while you're on a break and some tables are starting if you are playing MTTs. And then there's something, or let's just go through what everything is. So dashboard is that you can get like preset ranges. So you can preset different ranges for every different position that you can like have an average range. You can have a range that post or pre-flop ranges that you can set up in here. For a tournament player, as ranges depend a lot on how many big blinds we do have at certain points. I don't think that this is going to be useful for an advanced player. And hello, Xias, Giro Man on our Twitch's chat. And Kauris, I'm trying to take it down a bit, the intro sound. Like it might be that it's too loud. Or as they say, you are too old if it's too loud. So perhaps when you got 1 year older yesterday or day before that, perhaps that has affected your hearing. And impact point regarding SessionLord, if you buy the sit and go opener, can you use the multi-table version or do you have to buy the multi-table tool do separately? The multi-tabling tool is a separate buy, but right now it's quite cheap. I think it's about around $6 a month. And it's a different tool. You don't have to use the SessionLord's or SessionLord sit and go opener if you don't want to. And you can use the multitabling tool as itself. And like I said, I think that this dashboard, I think that this is probably more useful for players that are just learning to have like preset ranges, to have a pretty good idea on what to do on UTG. You can have I think this is the Sklansky-Carlson ratings. So you can get hands into the dashboard and then you can get an idea on, or you can actually select different hand orderings, like what hands are going to get to the next order. I don't actually know. This doesn't look like Sklansky-Carlson, so. And so this dashboard is something that I personally don't use, and I see this for, if you are starting, this might be a good help because then you can look at your preset ranges, and perhaps for cash games this might have more use into having your default ranges available for you. And Kauris says no beard. Yeah, got rid of the beard yesterday, so no beard today. Okay, the next tool in the multitabling toolkit is Table Manager. And this Table Manager is going to be a tool that is going to go through your tables and going to enable table management. So in here we can set up different kind of borders and highlights. We can get like a big line there to highlight that this is the table, a border, or we can color the full frame with a different color when it's active. And you can select the colors. Actually, this is something that I'll need to switch for a different color so I don't confuse it. But for table layout profiles, I'm having a table layout here. So if we want to use table layout profiles, we'll need to enable table layouts, and then we'll create a profile, and then we can create some slot filters. And for today, we are going to create some slot filters. And there's an auto switch layouts. So you can have a different layout when you are having only 4 tables, but when you are getting more than 4 tables, then it can switch to like a 9 table layout for the same screen. So, but for me, I'm using and as you can see that if the auto switch layout is on and you are having multiple profiles, you can have more than one profile. But if you have multiple profiles, you can select them by table count, and then it will automatically switch to different layouts. And actually, I'm removing this new profile. I don't need it, so no need to get it confused. Then there is like use dashboard for this profile. I don't want to use dashboard for this profile. And Danita says that full colored one is probably best to have on non-active tables. It's when it's only shading, it doesn't matter. Like you can see your cards and you can see your action. I think it's just harder to use your hotkeys in wrong table. The more color you are using, or the bigger the thing is that points you to the right table. So I'm actually thinking that could be pretty good to use. And so when we are using this kind of a profile, we can use the manage slots. So actually in here, I can take this. So this is what I use here. And so I'm using this for min table count of 50. Actually, I'm going for 51 as we are trying 50 today. And this is like what we are having on a live stream. And now it says that there is like 6 stacks. What on earth is going on? And you can see that my stack 1 and stack 5, they are at the exact same place. So with SessionLord, if we are having manual slots, we can't have a slot that would have a filter and a manual filter for it. And as I like to use my slots with hotkeys, and as I like to use my slots with hotkeys, I need to use a manual filter so I can hotkey at every place. And there's like one point also that you can have a hotkey on get the table back to like the previous filters. So it would work if I would have one stack here, but I'm trying this kind of a system that when a table starts, if I haven't touched the table with my manual hotkeys, then it automatically, when it comes near the bubble, then it automatically moves to the slot that I'm using my bubble. And for this type of system to work, we can't use time bank based priority. And one thing that we are using that is never bring table to foreground. So when we are using this never bring table to foreground, it means that we are using PokerStar's system to pop out the tables. And if you are using settings that if you are using this SessionLord settings like time bank based priority and never bring table to foreground, then you should never ever put 2 stacks together. Like if we are thinking about it, I'm actually taking notepad here. Like if we are thinking about it, like where can I get a notepad? For poker stars, we are having like one way that there's the first table to act, the second table to act, the fifth table to act. Like when tables need to act, they are built into one way, one line, one queue. That's a word that I can't pronounce. So there's only one system that when you are acting on the table number one, then it's removed from then it's put in the back of the line. So then you are acting on the table number two, table number three, etc. But like if we are having 4 stacks on SessionLord, then it will have like every stack will have, like if we are having 4 stacks where we are having the same 7 tables, then we are having like four different lines that we are organizing our tables. And when you are acting on the first table there, then it brings you the second table. But if we are having 2 stacks on top of each other, then we are having resource contention, and then we might get the wrong table on the top. So never put stacks on top of each other if you are not using this never bring table to foreground, because it will create problems for you. But if you are not using 2 stacks on top of each other, you can use this enable time bank based priority, and it's actually pretty smart, because then it counts on what table do you have the least time to act on when time bank is taken into account. So if you are like playing hypers where I think it's 6 seconds before it goes to the time bank, then or if let's say we are playing turbo games, so it's like 15 seconds to act, 15 seconds to time bank. Like if we are playing turbos and we are having like one table where we are having 3 seconds of time bank, one table where we are having 15 seconds of time bank. Like if we are having more than 3 seconds to act on the first table, it's not going to be the first table we see. The table where we are having the small time bank will be the first table to act. Oh, Q. Thanks, Danita. That's something that's hard because in Finnish it's jono, and that's going to be completely different from pretty much every of the languages that English is related to. And Impact Point asks that if you are multitabling in SessionLord, can you pop out the tables that are on the bubble permanently? I don't know if I understand your question here. And like in here, when tables are going into the bubble, they are always going into this stack in here, and they are going to permanently stay there until I'm giving them a manual key to move them to another table. So, but we can actually, let's leave this qui example here, and let's think about a bit of a different system. So actually, let's now create a new one here. So let's create a new profile. And now SessionLord gives me a warning when I'm saving the system that the slots are too close and covering each other. Consider to use multi-filtering option for your slots to avoid misclicks. So every stack, it makes its own queue, and also every slot, it makes its own queue. And let's talk a bit about what we can do. Like when we are creating a new one, we are getting here this kind of a stuff, and we are also getting a dashboard. This dashboard is it's just going to be like what size is going to be your dashboard, so where you can see your different kind of ranges into different kind of situations. But let's say that we are not using dashboard for this example. And when we are having something new, there is like 2 options. We can have a normal or stack slot. Okay, what's the difference between normal and a stack slot? If we are getting a new stack slot, we are getting that there are two different things here. That for a slot, there is only, now I wonder why I can't click anything here. Let's try to save this and let's try to open it again. Might be that I'm needing two slots here, but basically stack is only a slot, but a stack can have a move out criteria. And for this reason, we can create the stack that will contain all of our tables. With slots, it's always going to be that if we are having multiple slots, like the slot number 1 gets filled first, then the next table will go to slot number 2, and then the third table will get to slot number 3. So this is something that happens that if you are, for example, if you want to play tiled, you can pretty easily just like create a profile where you are only having slots and reorder on table close, then it will move the slots so you are always getting a nice amount of tables for your slots, so your slots, you don't leave holes between your slots. So this is what reorder on table close means. Every time that table is closing, it will try to reorder your tables, or if you're having stacks with filters, then it will reorder those filters. And when I'm using manual slots, there's also reorder manual slots, and I could use this pretty well myself. That I don't actually think that this would make much difference for me. And I'm wondering why I can't get these things to work. Why I can't see these applied filters. Let's start to think about it a bit. And well, this is a demo effect. Shouldn't be happening. I wonder because I'm having also slots that are around here for this table layout. This is also giving me errors if I'm having two table layouts with the same manual hotkeys, so that's something that doesn't work that well for my... Of course! If I'm having the table manager on, then I can't. If I'm having table manager on, so when you are inside your session, you can't change these applied filters. So if you are having the table manager on, then you can't change your applied filters. So you can also have you can have slots that are only dedicated for your bubble games. So you can have like slots that are only taking in hands that are near the bubble, or you can have slots that are only for... So I think this might be what Impact Point was asking, that can we have, or you could for example, you could have that before you are getting to the bubble or before you are getting to the late stages of the game, you could have a situation that before you are getting to the late stages of the game, you could have a situation that you are having all of your tables in a stack, but you could have slots that are the bubble slots, and then the bubble slots would be filled in order. So for example, if we would have this kind of a system that we would have one stack, and then we would have one slot, two slots, let's have another slot here. So if you would have this kind of a system, that there is move out is never, and we are having 3 slots that are having the bubble filters, then we would have a system that we would have where our tables would automatically move out of our stack into these slots. And when we would have the first table that comes into bubble, it would move on the slot number 1. Second table would move into this slot that is now number 3. The third table in a bubble would move into slot number 4. And then when we would have the fourth table going on the bubble, it wouldn't be like, now our slots are full, I don't move any other tables. If we are having slots like this, then it will start refilling from the first table up. So then these slots are also like, slots can act as stacks, but you can't control them as well. But for this kind of a system that you want to have, like stacks work for a system where you want to where you want to have a reason to move those stacks out. And we would also, there could be another idea that if we would have like this kind of a system that we would have 3 slots that would have an any idea here, that the filter applied would be any, then we could also have like need action. So then we would have all of our tables in the stack as long as they don't require action from you. But every time your action would come, then the table would move out into a slot here. And I think this is something that tools like Stack and Tile are doing, that this is the only option that you can have there. So you are having a stack, and then you are having a move out filter of need action, and then it will automatically like arrange your tables into the slots where you need to do an action there. There are also other types of options here. We can have also the stack that we are playing mostly in stack, but when we are entering pot, like if we are limping, calling, betting, then the table will move out of the stack. So then we would have all of our post-flop situations. So like first post-flop situation, second post-flop situation, third post-flop situation. So this is pretty flexible, and there are a ton of different options. And I think this can help even if you're playing less tables, so you can have like only the tables that you are having cards would be outside the stack. So only the tables that you might have a reason to act. So then it would clear your ideas a bit more, like you wouldn't need to focus on tables that you wouldn't require on buy-in dialogue. If you are playing cash games and you are getting the buy-in dialogue to enter a new table, so then it could move the table out for a place that where you know to look that, okay, now I'm getting a new table, like I have been on the queue for the table for a while, and now I'm going to get into that table. So there are a lot of options for doing this, and you can have multiple stacks, you can have multiple slots, you can have multiple monitors, you can have these tables from different monitors. And I think that I have pretty well explained. And also there's like stay table in stack when all in. I think this is something that for most players this is going to be profitable, for you to have the table to stay in stack when all in, because then you can't tilt if you are seeing the all-in results. But if you are really curious and always want to see what happens on your all-ins, then having no to this would be pretty much an option. And you can also, like, we can hide while we play poker, we can hide Windows taskbar, so we will have like a clear window. You can't see my Windows taskbar, it's on a different screen for me. You can remove the title and border, so you are only having these. So if you are like having multiple and you are having tons of slots, when you are removing these titles and borders or hiding the Windows taskbar here, not hide the Windows taskbar, remove the title and border, then you can stack, or then you can have even more tables more tables on your screen. So you can see here, like I'm having half a table worth of space only for removing the titles and borders. So this is something that can be quite useful for you. You can also have hotkeys, so you can switch from different table layout position. So you can switch sort of different layout positions. And of course, with SessionLord, the trial is always like you can get 30 days and you can do whatever you want for 30 days. And after that, you can have 1 hour of using the multitabling tool a day. So you can always check, like, have they improved something that will make a lot of difference for me. And if you have any questions at any point, just shoot a question to me. I'll try to answer. And Nikki Penisofani has asked some questions, but I don't think that they are going to be that important. And of course, the magic happens with slot filters. And we're actually doing a different kind of slot filter here. So we can have a slot filter, and this is really interesting also, that if you are playing, for example, MTTs, and you'll want to be alerted like when you are being next to a table, SessionLord knows how many players there are remaining in your tournament. So it can pop out this it can like move the bubble table out of the 180-man tables even before you'll know that it's a bubble table. Like it can move, like when you are having, let's say, the bubble is at 7 players, then it can move the table out when we are at 30 tables. And also something to make it work really well is going to be the players at the table. Like how many players do we have at the table? And this is something to just make every table hit some filters here. So then we are going to get the tables into our first stack. And that's pretty much what we want. We want to have all the tables hitting our first stack. And actually I don't think that we are requiring the bubble filter are more important. So when there are, for example, from a bubble 6 max filter, it's that when we are having 3 players on the table and the table is a 6 max table, then we are going to move this table into where I say that we are using the filter bubble 6 max. Bubble 9 max, it's pretty much the similar filter here, that we are moving this table into the bubble 9 max position when we are having 5 players remaining there. And for cash games, we can use this to move our heads up table somewhere else than our short store from our 6 max tables, or we can move our full ring tables out of our 6 max tables. So there are always opportunities. And we are actually doing a new filter here for bubble 50/50s as the bubble is coming. Okay. We can only use 10 letters, so let's say bubble 50. So players at the table, our count will be 7 or less. And then our tourney entrants are going to be 10 and 10. And that should work. And like the filter for if you want to do a filter for like 90 player games or 180 player games, then you can use this tourney players left. So then you can use those filters to know when you are going to be in the bubble. So how do we use it then? Then we are going to, let's now remove this new profile. So then we are just like adding an applied filter here, and now it uses this stack for bubble 9 max, bubble 6 max, and bubble 50/50s. So it's quite easy, and that's how it should work. And actually getting to the table manager, using the slot filters, and let's do the start 9 max. It's taking 10 max tables in, so it should work. Okay, we have now walked through 2 tools out of this like 9 tools, and we have used half an hour. But the table manager is the most complicated one of these tools, so it's going to be quite easy. So then we are going to have an Ihad. And what does this Ihad do? It's like it consists of tons of different HUD pieces where you can have extra information you can't have from Hold'em Manager or Poker Tracker 4. Like here you can see, for example, you can have your stack in adjusted big blinds, and this works for, and like if you're using this starting stack in adjusted big blinds, if you are using it from Poker Tracker, it works only when the last hand has been imported into Poker Tracker or Hold'em Manager, and even then it counts what has happened on previous hands. But SessionLord scans the table when the hand starts, so you can have like your adjusted big blinds, and you can have them at the start of the hand, and it pretty much always works. That's pretty awesome. And there's like difference of starting stack and stack. So starting stack, it would be, for starting stack, actually I haven't used this, so I'm a bit unsure that does this mean that if it's the starting stack of what stack we used when we started the hand and what's still, or if it's our starting stack that we started the tournament with. It's actually pretty quick to try. So trying to do an FPP satellite, those are always pretty easy to start, except now when we are not having, when it's a Sunday and we are having the Sunday storm running, so I just can't get to the next. Okay, so when does this tournament start that this is a satellite to? Okay, this is on late reg. I certainly don't want to do that one. PCA Megapath, I don't think I can unregister. This is still on a late reg. Okay, can't get a satellite here to start. And probably I don't want to have a, if I have a 50/50 running, that shouldn't matter that much, because it's going to be a slower game anyway. Okay. Let's just get a quickest game running that we can. So in here, this is all about testing what's the difference between the starting stack and stack. And now you can see that I'm actually, when I don't have the startup running, I can't use the hotkeys. So the SessionLord hotkeys and everything, they only work when I'm having the tool started. So when I'm having the tool started, then I can see the stuff here. So now we are having 33. This is the, okay. Let's now go to the Ihad. So this is now, is it showing both of these? And this is also something that this is different for heads-up tables. This is different for heads-up tables. This is different for all the table types. So we'll need to do profiles for every different type of game. And actually, now I'm going to. So what I recommend you to do is to enable these HUDs one at a time, and try to get them at the smart positions when you are having these. And you can always hover on the, so you can then see what player does it correspond to. Having a 7 deuce off there. This is for Piscar 88, so trying to just move these. Trying to get these to the right players, and it should be easier than this. I just didn't have the. Okay, now I have those correctly. And this is Keroppi. Okay, this is the right guy. And now I noticed that my HUD also from PT4 isn't configured to work nicely. I did some update on PokerStars and then it broke the HUD. So let's now do a bit of a tuning setup here. So this should be route 2304. So now we have the actions. So this is like player action. So we can see what players have done pre-flop and post-flop. And I think this is pretty useful. And I think it's also pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff, because especially when you are multi-tabling a lot, there will be times that you are just going to play a lot of tables and you are going to get back to the table and you are wondering like, what on earth just happened on tables? When we are using the SessionLord tool to see what has happened before the hand, then we can like, now we are on the turn. Okay, our opponent has opened, we have flat called, we had called the flop. So then we can get an instant recognition where we are on the table. Also something that I use, or so this is practically how I use the Ihad. These are the tools that I'm using. And basically these tools are consisting of how many tables do I have running, what's going on my tables, how many tables do I have that are going to require action, and how many tables are that are going to time bank or going to require action for a long time. Then there is how much time has gone since the last blind update. So when I'm using this setting, then I'm going to know exactly when the timer is going to go. So then I'll pretty much exactly know when I can stall in, like in hypers. Sometimes it's really imperative to know when the blinds are changing. Like when you are calculating on who is going to be all in, sometimes it might be that when a player is going to be all in, but only if the blind change up, so I can pretty quickly look like, okay, it's 1.3 minutes or 1.5 minutes for the next blind update. So I can't stall it, and I'm going to probably be the next one going all in. So then I'll need to act a bit quicker. And Piku Sakmiku, I reinstalled old version of PT4 after update. Otherwise they messed up with all the HUD colors. Yeah, with the newest version of Poker Tracker 4 and Hold'em Manager, they are now conforming to the PokerStars rules. That on PokerStars and Full Tilt Poker you can only have 2 different color codes for different or for the same HUD stat. So you can only have like 3 colors. You can have one catch-all color and one color and 2 colors that are using some kind of a filter. But if you are playing on any other site and that you can use Poker Tracker on, you can have multiple colors there. And Piku Sakmiku, that's also a problem. Like, Poker Tracker has updated because PokerStars has changed their rules. If you are using a Poker Tracker that's an older version, that's a tool that would be not allowed to use on PokerStars or Full Tilt Poker at the moment. So, like, for me, I'm playing professionally. It's going to be my livelihood on the line. I have updated to the newest version of Poker Tracker and also the newest version of SessionLord that does conform to the PokerStars rules. Even though I might think that even though it doesn't matter what do I think about the ruling, it's still like it's their house and then I'll need to obey their rules when I'm a guest at their house, even though I'm paying quite a lot for the. And Nick Benisov, does your cheeks hurt after a Twitch session? No, but my throat might be hurting because I'm usually talking quite a lot. So let's see the starting stack in. So now we are having an extra HUD piece for everyone. And let's see what's coming into the HUD piece. So this is probably the starting stack is going to be on what kind of a stack did we start the hand with, and the stack in M is going to be Let's now try to find everybody's HUD box. This is also why you shouldn't try to move those HUD boxes before you know what's what. This Jalix's. So Jalix's HUD boxes for the 50-50, the best. And these colors, you can see that this color doesn't work nicely. But we can have different color codes for this as well. But it's going to be the same as everything else, so only the colors that are, only 2 colors are. So this is like we are having 20.98. And this is something that I don't think we are needing decimals for. So this is what we start the hand with, and this stack in M. This is big. So this is how much stack do we have left. Okay, so these are 2 different numbers. So this is what we start the hand with, and this is what we have left. I don't actually think that the starting stack in M big blinds would almost ever be useful. If we want to use a stack HUD here, we should always use the stack in M. So, and Kauris says that my HUD is sick. Yeah, I tend to agree, but as I said, that I'm generally not using all of this stuff, and this is probably the most HUD unfriendly. This is probably the most HUD unfriendly game that's available here. Like when we are playing 50-50s, we are having 10 players on the table, and when we are having 10 players on the table, then it's going to be a quite an adventure, let's say it this way. And Impact Point says that you would think that you would like not having a HUD. Yeah, we have Unibet as our partner site, and they have disallowed the use of any HUD. The programmers that are responsible for Unibet, they have said that they want to do everything to combat HUDs and these sort of extra tools. So they, for example, they are not offering any hand histories. So that's something that is making a lot harder for people to use any sort of a HUD there. Okay. Now I know that there's a wrong HUD here. So this is my HUD. This should be the Roots HUD. No, this should be Piskar's HUD. So this should be, yeah, taking some time doing this, but it's something that you'll only need to do this once per every table type. And too many red boxes, yeah. But this is about showing the SessionLord multitabling. So this is more about also showing in and stack in M big blinds or stack in M big blinds and stack in ABBs. Okay, that's something to also probably take into account. What's the difference between ABBs and MBBs? Let's see, 27.25 times 60. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to use. Okay. Like the MBBs is stack in M, not stack in MBBs. I think that wasn't very well communicated, let's put it this way. And Cody says that you are a pro. Do you really need all these boxes? Actually, when I am a pro, it might even make more sense in having some of these boxes. For like, if you are playing one or two tables, you practically never need to use, for example, this player action HUD, because you'll always know like what kind of actions there were on the tables before. So then you don't need HUD for. And I must say that this is a lot easier for a 9-max table. As you can see, these are pretty much at the exact same spots that they would be in the 9-max tournament. So, and now that we are getting antes involved, now we can see that our HUDs are changing a bit. So this is just like, this is making it a bit quicker to just look like what kind of adjusted big blinds do we have. Then we can also have effective stacks. So then it calculates for the, if we are using the effective stacks, then it will calculate also on the players that you are having behind, and it will take into account the largest stack that you are having behind. So if you are, for example, if you are on the button, and if you are having 8 big blinds on the button, and you are having a player with 2 big blinds and a player with 4 big blinds behind you, then your effective stack would be 4 big blinds. Table statistics. Yeah, this table statistic is like how many tables do you have to act on. Now I did something problematic. I moved the SessionLord window into a spot where I couldn't move it down anymore. So, and only now I noticed that these chats have been using it a bit. Then there is something that's interesting, that you can have an all-in card hider. So when you are going all in, then it will just hide all the cards, so you don't know what happens in all-ins. So this is like a mental game help, that if you are tilting on what happens in all-ins, you can also use this all-in card hider, and then you don't know what happens on the all-in. And then there's like journey type, table title, pot odds, like what kind of pot odds do you get? That's also something that you can calculate pretty quickly, but for example, if you're having a situation that there is a player that has shoved all in, that's having a bigger stack than you, it helps to have the pot odds calculated for you. Player action history, so we can here see open raise, raise, limp, dead blind. So we can select all of those. And SessionLord bet box. This bet box is only useful if you are using the dollars to big blinds, because then you can see instantly on the big blinds that you are betting, and then you can also bet the big blinds easier. Player position, table number, these are stuff that I don't have that much use for. But like this action, I think the adjusted big blinds is a great use. What the player actions have been pot odds, like now I know that for like 44% pot odds would be okay for me. I can also calculate it. Now I can see like 30% pot odds. But it doesn't calculate like if there is a small stack and big stack, you need to calculate those stuff. Like these three-way all-ins, you'll still need to calculate yourself on what happens, how much do you need against either opponent. It just takes a bit of mathematics away. Like you don't need to do that much mathematics in your head. Then there's the dollars to big blind. This is also something that if I'm changing these dollars to big blind, then we can see that our stack size are big blinds at every position. I think that this might be useful for a tournament player that's mixing hypers and mixing normal speed games. But if you are playing turbos and normal speed games that start with a similar type of a, now we can see here that raise, fold, call, raise. But in general, if this would be an option to select on PokerStars software itself, I would probably use this. I'm thinking that this is probably better to see everyone's stack size in big blinds. But I don't think that this is going to be the most optimal way to play. And Profile Man asked, what is 1-0-0? It's like now it's 1-1-0, so I have one table left to act, and now I'm having one table that's in risk of time banking. But what I don't like with this dollars to big blinds, what I don't like about this is that we don't get what our bet sizes look to our opponent. I think that it's at some point a good player can manipulate more of their opponents by using certain kind of bet size. Like if I would know that everybody would be using this, or like it would be an option in Star software to use it in big blinds, I would use it. If I would mix hypers with turbos, I would probably use it because then it would make less likely for me to misclick in a 9max table, and then I wouldn't care that it would take easy bet sizing away, or like it would take some bet sizing tools away from me to manipulate my opponents. So in general, I think that this is useful, but I don't use it because I'm generally playing the only games that I'm having the same starting stacks, and I'm valuing more my opportunities to manipulate my opponents with bet sizings that I know that my opponents are likely to see. And Danita says that you can have both BBs and chips shown. Like, yeah, you like in here, we can have this extra Ihad here that will show us our big blinds. But with dollars to BBs, I think that there is there is also an option on. Let's see in this, how does it work now? So it's like 1.6k, 13.5. Wow, this is pretty cool. Thanks, Janita. Let's see, now show original on pot. Okay, I retract my statement. This is pretty damn useful. Nope. In here, this is something that it shows it up here. No, this is something that I don't like. That's the problem. Like, this is something that where I would want it the most. Okay. This would have a spot where we could donk bet because we don't have a lot of equity here, or we don't have a lot of showdown equity here. So this could be a spot that we could donk bet bluff against a limper. So it doesn't exactly work as I hope, but I think this is going to be useful. So, and I like the 1.4K here. I think it's easier to read. Yeah. Now I'm getting to use even more. So then there are hotkeys. There are probably like 100 different hotkeys that you can use. And this is also something that you can use for. This is also something that you can use for these hotkeys. This guy limps from the UTG. Wow, if I would know that this guy would be a fishy player, I would probably shove. I'm thinking that even actually calling might be also an option because we are getting such great pot odds here. Even though I don't like our hand at all. I don't like our hand at all. So there are plenty of hotkeys in here that you can set up. I don't think that they are having that many hotkeys missing. There are some hotkeys, like they are having an option in here that like bet raise hotkey. But when I'm using hotkeys for different actions, I'm using like I'm having a what's this called? PS3 controller. So when I'm using this for hotkeys, I'm having like here I'm using the button to you press this button here, or I'm using the middle button to press the center button. So when I'm having a situation that someone shoves all in, and I'm only having one button here, then it takes me a long time to. So this is something that bet raise or like call all in button is probably only button that is missing here, that I'm missing, and I'm missing it a lot. It's also like table manager hotkeys, reorder tables, move to default, next need action, previous need action. That could also be something that there should be a global hotkey, like these hotkeys only work when SessionLord or PokerStars table is selected. But if I'm having something else, like I'm browsing on PokerMania and I have an Opera selected, and I'm trying to get my next urgent table, it doesn't work. So then there is an easy feature like backer, auto click time bank, auto click I'm back, auto close single OK pop-ups. So I think like these are all really useful, and this is something that I think is going to be quite awesome. So then there is this feature called table site, and this is something that they have tried to do for multi-tablers. So you can have your own cards when you are having multiple tables. You can have your own cards. What's happening on the table pretty easily. What's your bet situation? And actually, this doesn't seem to be working that well on 50-50s. But in general, this is something that, like this table site, we can have like 10 tables here. But I think that this is an interesting idea. like to only give you the important information, like give you the quick information on how many tables you are going and what's happening in there. But I just can't find it that useful. Like table view layout, okay, we can't do the table view layout when we don't have 2 tables or more. And Impact Point says must be very smart to play 50 tables and play Xbox at the same time, Arnie. That's a PlayStation 3 controller, and I'm using it to control the tables, so that's something. And I'll also have a left-handed keyboard here to also have, so if I'm having if my right hand hurts, then I can move away from using the mouse and I can move to the other table. If my back starts hurting, that I have sit too much upright trying to get my tools, then I can just take my controller and turn the chair down and relax a bit on the tables and trying to get it to work. And here for hotkeys, you can also use pretty effectively hotkeys that when the target table is under mouse, so then it always selects the table that's under your mouse to be the hotkey table. And I can select the use the all-in, then click the button pretty well with the hotkeys, and then I can also browse the different tables here. And hello tube cat. And Piku Sakmiku, in Tournament Optimizer, I assign a hotkey to stack in chips versus stack in big blinds. Just press tab and it changes instantly. Works perfect. I actually prefer that it shows both of these here. So these are going to be pretty okay. Ace 2 suited. I think that crap. This is actually also something that it's 6.66 big blinds, but when I'm having the biggest stacks behind me, it's also going to be a situation that I don't have that many spots to shove against these guys. Then I'm taking I think this is a marginal spot. I think this is a marginally plus EV spot, even though I'm 4th in chips here and my survival value is a lot. But when I'm having 2 biggest stack going behind me, I'm going to also have a problem here. That I'm going to be the guy that's going to feel the most pressure on my opponents here. So now we have gone through the SessionLord's multitabling tools. Now let's go try some 50-50s. Okay, a new rule for 50-50s. I don't actually want it to. Actually, when we are under 20 tables, let's then just make it register us to everything. Then I'll also need to change my sit and go tournament filter to not have minimum players enrolled, because then I'll also see the empty tables. And let's also add another filter. I actually could show this one as well. Like in here, we are having this. Then let's also take that we are having only 3 seats remaining, so that the tables that we are going to take are going to be quite quick. And we don't have any weight requirements, so we are playing every table that comes. Let's put 50 here. So let's keep 50 tables open. Then for session rules, in general, when I'm playing hypers, when I'm playing my regular sessions, then I'm using these kind of filters to quickly, or I'm using these filters to play the most profitable games when I'm going closer to the table limits that I'm playing with. So when I'm going closer to the table limits that I can play, then I only want to play the most profitable games available for me. But this means that I'm having a lot of these filters to set to 0 to get... Actually, I don't need to set these filters to 0. I have only 50/50s in the PokerStars window, so it shouldn't register me to anything else than 50/50s. Okay, we are having, like, TubeCat is going to have a question, and I think that we are going to take a 5-minute break before I start. But first, I'll answer the TubeCat's question. I have played live for the last 4 years now and done pretty well. Played small, empty, decent cash games. Since I can't play live anymore, I want to start playing online. And I was wondering, could you give me some tips about what I should play and what do you think about my plan? First of all, I want to play the $1.5 sit and goes up to 45 men. Want to deposit $300 since that's 200 buy-ins, so I have nice and safe bankroll management. I will start in November and only play so I can get the feeling about the games. In December, I will also try to play but get in depth with my moves. Yeah, I think that it's going to be good to, like, when you're starting online, I think one point that you can do is to pretty much also, I'd say that start at the lowest level. Like, you are going, there are differences between live and online. And you don't need to pay your dues at a higher level than it's required. So if you're playing on PokerStars, there are also going to be 50-cent 45 mens. And I'd say that play those before you play those, get used to the software, get used to playing online, get used to the opponents online. And when you have played those and when you have gotten a good feeling about the software and other stuff, then you can move on to 1.5s and that's going to be what, like 200 buy-ins. I think that's going to be that's going to give you a good chance to run it up. Like for 45 mens, I think that somewhere around 100 buy-ins would be the smallest bankroll. And if you are a really winning player, I think that it's going to be pretty hard to go bankrupt with 200 buy-ins. And having Hold'em Manager 2 is okay. Having Table Ninja, if you're having Table Ninja 1, it's going to be a prohibited software right now. That's pretty much what has spurred a kick on me. Like, I have had a system that has worked for me. I think that I haven't done much changes into my grinding system in probably in 5 years, because I got it working really well with Table Ninja 1. But now that PokerStars has changed their rules on what software is allowed and what's not, and when Table Ninja 1 is allowed no more, it works, but I don't want to risk anything with PokerStars. And TubeCat also playing maximum 4 tables at the beginning. That's something that I'll also recommend, that don't play more tables than you can concentrate on. Like, if you are starting to play poker or starting to play online, I'm thinking that first thing to do, like the first thing where you are going to need a lot of practice on, is going to be learning to get your game into a really winning mode. You can always increase the amount of tables, but I think that there are players that have done the mistake that they are just trying to keep at the edge of their reaction time. And if you are always playing at the edge of your reaction time, it's going to be really hard to develop your game, and it's like only practicing the automations that you have and only doing well with the automations you are having. And having Hold'em Manager 2, I think that's good. Like, Hold'em Manager 2 or Poker Tracker 4, those two are, in my mind, they are pretty interchangeable. You can do pretty much all the same things with either or. For some players, like I think Kaleon has said that for his computer, Hold'em Manager 2 seems to work better. For me, Poker Tracker 4 seems to work better. and there are some freedoms that I like about Poker Tracker 4. So I have started to use that, but I have plenty of people that I have coached that are using Hold'em Manager 2, and some stuff is harder to find for me when I'm not that used to it, but some stuff is always also way easier to do in Hold'em Manager 2. And yeah, for TubeCat, if you are playing $10 games, and if you are playing $10 games with $100 bankroll, it doesn't matter how good you are. You are going to get broke if you are playing with 10 buy-in bankroll management. Even if you are Phil Ivey or Patrick Antonius, you are going to be quite likely going broke. Like pretty much the only game that you are not likely to go broke if you are playing with 10 buy-ins is going to be something like regular speed pot limit Omaha high-low heads up tournaments, or something like 5-card draw heads up normal speeds that you can have an awesome edge on your opponent, since pretty much no one can play those games well. But I'd say that let's take a 5-minute break, and after that let's see that if I can break 50 tables at once.